For the love of games!
Hi, everybody. What is up? Welcome to the Pixel Attack podcast.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yes, we got. Thank you for the
sound effects, man. Yeah.
Guess what, guys? This is episode 18, and our budget has increased exponentially because now we hire dedicated sound effects generators.
That's right. We don't have to rely on Travis anymore to do our sound effects.
No, we got a special
Hit the big time.
It's the only reason we keep Nevin around so that he can
to the major leagues.
Yeah. Step aside other big podcasts that I don't know of.
That's right.
What's a big
We're taking
podcast?
over.
That Serial
The
one.
giant
That's
Serial,
the one.
yes, that's right. We're the next Serial.
We're the Serial of the gaming world.
We're coming for
because
you,
people
NPR.
are just spellbound by the content that we deliver on a daily basis. It's okay. We don't blame you if you're giving up your life just to listen to the podcast. It happens to all of us.
So, Steven, 18 is a very big number. Lots of big
Right, that
things
means
happen. You can
We're
vote.
legal.
We are legal.
Yeah, that's right. We're legal. You can drink in some
This
provinces. and
podcast
states.
is getting a lot more sexual after tonight.
18 downloads or
That
18
explains-
episodes?
18 episodes.
Okay.
That's right,
18
18
downloads.
18 downloads.
That would be
18
sad.
Episodes in, I would be
Yeah.
really upset. They're
I
all from
quit
your
my
dad.
full-time job.
They're all from your dad.
What am I
Steve.
doing? Yeah, my dad. Oh my gosh. Eric, my dad left us a podcast review when we first went live because he's really supportive.
He's a big
Oh,
social
man.
media push.
It
guy.
was like the
awesome.
cringiest review I've ever
He's got
read.
a bunch of hashtags on our iTunes review.
Man,
My mom loves reviewing my games, and it's she goes into. I was building like a mobile games. She would go into Apple stores and try to convince the like Apple geniuses to like play my game,
No
thinking
way.
that they like
Dude, that's
thinking that they
awesome.
knew Steve Jobs or something.
You tell
Somehow.
Steve that my son is
Yeah.
going places. Like,
That's
okay.
awesome.
It's
That's
I
amazing.
really appreciate it, but
Oh, my.
So yeah, episode 18 is a big deal. It's a big deal because now for 2 weeks in a row we have awesome guests, and the voice you are hearing, that soothing, sensual voice that you hear, that is not ours, not mine or Travis's nor Nevin's, is of course Erik Asmussen. And Travis, being the go-getter that he is, wrote this really great bio, and I need to pass off the microphone, hand the torch.
Oh, I don't
What's
like.
the face for?
I don't really like how much you're hyping it up. Like I kind of.
No, this thing will
this will just be-
revolutionize bios.
It's really just a
the
few
backs
sentences.
of books will never be the same.
surprise me.
All right. Well, now I think I gotta do it in a voice, and I don't really have too many voices in my repertoire.
No, you have like a pretty solid
Yeah.
high pitch.
Yeah. Starting with just an idea in his head, Erik Asmussen had no formal game design training. After quitting his job to help R2-D3 become a reality, the game was eventually greenlit on Steam as it began to take shape. At one point, rated the best multiplayer game on Steam, Robot Roller-Derby
start over.
Disco Dodgeball began to attract the attention of industry heavyweights like Total Biscuit, Markiplier, Giant Bomb, and Fork. Today, Erik is at the pinnacle of his career so far, capping it off with an achievement many have dreamed about but few have accomplished. Welcome to the Pixel Attack podcast.
Yes,
Thank
Yes.
you. I'm honored. That was fabulous.
that was
Thank
amazing, except for the part where you ruined saying his game.
Yeah,
Robot
I almost,
Roller-Derby
I almost like Roller Derby better, and
It's such a great
be a
name. I have
beautiful
to say,
spin-off.
like, it's a beautiful name, but I find it so hard to keep it in order. Like, I always have to think about it. It actually helps me now that I realize that roller derby is a compound word.
Yes.
Because that helps me keep the R's in the right order.
That's why I hyphenated it.
Which is actually
you.
kind of genius when you think about it, because so many times my inclination was to call it roller robot derby, or roller robot disco derby dodgeball. It doesn't matter. It's a beautiful name.
Anytime any of you mispronounce the name of the game, we're going to restart the podcast from the very beginning. Just
And I'm
FYI.
gonna undo a
You
bunch.
should actually make that a
R2-D3.
rule.
Everybody say R2-D3.
R2
You should make that a rule. I really want to see like a podcast with you on IGN where you're just like, can we start this over, please?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
I'm out.
I'm sorry, but you just embarrassed
About
yourself
branding, yeah.
in front of your audience.
So, Erik, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you are such an esteemed guest on this podcast?
Because you emailed me.
Yes.
And I said yes. And I wasn't busy.
Dude, you can't tell them how we
No,
operate.
no industry secrets here,
A
please.
magician never reveals his tricks. Email? What's that?
So I've been basically full-time game developer on my own for like coming up on 5 years now. So it takes that long to reach any level of of like income to the point where you can do this. Yeah, I started building mobile games because that was the hot thing at the time. And plus, I'm a solo developer, and like PC games seemed like way too big and complicated. And I was like, oh, I could build a mobile game on my own. So I did a couple of those, and then left the mobile market because it's like, it's just trash now. Like, there's a couple people that are doing good stuff, so I don't want to denigrate like the whole mobile dev market. But like, if you look at what's selling there, it's like complete garbage stuff. So some good stuff was happening with Steam, like with Greenlight opening things up. So I jumped on that and built Disco Dodgeball over about a year and a half. Launched it 2 months ago, and just released another big update today. And hopefully, going to keep building it over the next year or so, and make it into a bigger thing.
Right. So why don't you tell people, in case they are living under a rock and have not heard of
Start over.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Pixel Tech Podcast. Steven
we should wrap this up around Thursday.
It's episode 18, everybody. It's a monumental. Okay, Robot Roller-Derby Disco Dodgeball. What is this amazing game?
It's a first-person shooter, except you are throwing dodgeballs at each other. That's the only weapon. That's also your only ammo. You have to pick up every single ball you throw. And you're also on basically roller skates. So movement is it's almost like Mario Kart. Everything's one hit, one kill. You can catch, dodge, and block shots. There's all kinds of power-ups like jetpacks and laser balls and stuff. But ultimately, it's kind of just an Instagib arena shooter where it's just ridiculous, fast-paced, lots of disco lights going on. And mostly a multiplayer game, just some stupid thing you can have fun with friends.
Oh my god!
Soundtrack,
and is it fun?
by the way? Yeah,
It's so much fun.
Is so good.
I was having this moment where I was like, do I want to go out on the podcast and just be like, you guys need to buy this game? Because I've been playing it this week, and let's just get right into it. I am just blown away. This game is so much damn fun. Like, it's such a beautiful, elegant game. So, if you're in the chat right now, if you're listening to this on iTunes or Stitcher, all of our available platforms, maybe YouTube. Now I'm just cross-promoting ourselves at the same time, killing two birds with one stone. You guys go check out this game on Steam. It is so much fun.
Yeah, so Eric, you made a splash right off the bat, it feels like. So so kind of take me up to that point where you released the game. So what were your expectations for R2D3 before it went live? Because you said that this was, you quit your job in order to do this. So did you have like, okay, well, I need to make, X amount of dollars so I can make up for the time that I spent? Or were you kind of just like, I'm just going to throw this into the wind and see what sticks? Or what was your mentality before you went live with R2D3?
So just on the timeline, I quit my job about 5 years ago, and that was to do mobile stuff. And it was really just like, I wanted to see, like, I figured I wouldn't have another opportunity to try and be a game developer. And I had some savings built up, so I thought, okay, if I want to spend a year, like, learning something, trying something new, I could like spend money and go to school, or just like eat ramen and not make money and teach myself over the course of a year. So I kind of treated it like a year of like intense like education, basically. And so after that first year, I think I had a game done, or maybe a game and a half, and it was making I think that first year I probably made like $2,000 total. After a year, but I was like, I just made a game. I made some money off this game. Like, that's crazy. That's even making that much, right? Like, that's actually pretty nuts. So then if I make a couple more games and I kind of update them all over time, I could, kind of mash together what's like a minimum wage kind of income there, and obviously, hopefully, grow it into a business over time. So Disco Dodgeball, I started working on it after I'd already been developing for like 3 or 4 years. And I think at that point, like some of my iOS games, like they were making some money, but the savings was still kind of like dropping kind of dangerously low. So like I had a runway to keep going, but it wasn't super large. So I'd really hoped that Disco Dodgeball would kind of like catapult me out of that. And I think more importantly, like establish like some kind of name or reputation, because like if you're just like some nobody person and you're like, hey, I built a game, like nobody cares, and like, it's super frustrating because like you just spent a year building this thing, and like you're trying to tell the world, and like the press doesn't care. Like they're too busy covering like AAA games, and so I realized that like going through YouTube was kind of a good way to build that up, and obviously like trying to build up a community of my own on Reddit and such. So when I first started working on the game, I put up a web prototype immediately on like our indie games, and people seemed to dig it right away. Like I already started seeing YouTube videos pop up from like this 2-week-old prototype, and I was like, okay, like this is a good sign that it's already gotten more traction than any of my old games that took a year to make after 2 weeks. So that was kind of it, and like I guess I had high expectations, and because people seem to be getting excited about it, but I always knew that it'd be really hard to like get people talking about it on a larger scale. So it's basically that's the battle. You're battling anonymity over time.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, like that's kind of a huge problem with indie gaming, isn't it? Because it's great because the tools are now so widely available that just about anybody can start building their dream game. And the downside to that is you've now everybody's making games, right? And so how do you stand out in that ocean of developers? Do you have any ideas for why you think R2D3 was a game that really just grabbed people's attention the way it did?
Well, I think like so it is like simple. It's a concept that everybody like can kind of get their head around. But I think in a way like it has something that like that other games don't have. Like it's not just like another platformer. It's not another RPG. It's like it's a shooter, but it's like something totally different than what's kind of already out there. And to me, it feels like it's boiling down the stuff that's fun about shooters and getting rid of all the junk that you don't really care about, right? Like to me, bullet sponge kind of combat is not fun at all. Like you just blasted someone 10 times and they go pick up some body armor, and like that sucks. So it's like all the good stuff like right off the bat. It's just explosions and projectiles and it's just the whole thing is just ridiculous, right? Like you kind of have to click on it to see what it's about. So I think that's the combination. Like it's just I don't know. I kind of feel like the game like had to exist. Like that was how I felt when I first kind of came up with the concept. And I think that's part of the reason that's I guess that's proven to be somewhat true, and that's kind of what's driven it around a little bit.
So I'm kind of curious. This isn't one of the questions that we had written down, but it just kind of popped up.
Dude, you can't go off the radar.
Yeah, come on, man. We got an agenda.
We worked on this for
weeks.
This
is anarchy here.
So you mentioned that like bullet sponge combat and stuff like that, you don't really find it entertaining, and I mean nobody really does. But I'm curious, did you ever play sort of the Instagib game modes for Quake and UT and all that stuff, and did that sort of have a relation to R2D3 at all?
So I didn't play much Quake at all. I played a lot of Unreal Tournament in college, but I think the thing that affected me the most was GoldenEye 64. We would always play with License to Kill, which is one hit, one kill.
Yeah.
And I loved grenade launchers, like ricocheting something off a wall and getting someone in the other room.
Yes.
It's like super fun. But I don't know. It was just everything was so tense, right? Like even if you got the worst gun in the game, like the club, it's like every little peek out of a corner is like everything's always on the line every time, and then you respawn and you're back in, right? So like you don't lose anything, but it's just way more frantic and meaningful, I think, when it's one hit, one kill. And so that I think really stuck with me and made me realize like, oh, dodgeball is all one hit, one kill. Like that's what it is. That's the rule. So it seemed like a pretty natural fit for
totally
what I wanted to do.
Okay, I just have to ask, this is sort of out of line from the stream of questions we've been asking you, but I had this question. I don't want to forget it. Because this game is so inherently based on skill, which is something that I find so refreshing about it, right? It's just, it's based on skill, but it's also a skill that doesn't come naturally. Like, even if you're really good at shooters, I still found myself for several hours struggling to sort of come to terms with the physics of throwing a ball and how it bounces and everything like that.
In addition to that, there's the whole sliding.
Yeah, like just movement and everything, and I think you make a really good point with how intense sort of one hit, one kill is, and I find that this game, when I'm playing it, I'm more frequently running into situations where I'm having that intense sort of gripping moment, than in other games. Like, I've been playing a lot of Battlefield 4 recently, for example, and I find like there's a lot of times where I just die and I'm like, I didn't even see that coming. And I mean, that can still happen in R2D3, but you have those moments where like you both have a ball and you're like staring that dude in the eyes and you're just like, who's gonna throw first, MFer? And it's like this awesome, like, you almost need a moment where it's like and like a hay bale like floats across.
A whole bale of hay. It's called.
You're right.
A tumbleweed.
Just rolls.
Tumbleweed.
Come
A whole hay
on,
bale.
dude. You best get your Western stuff together, boy, or I'm gonna
Nevin,
smack
listen to
you with
me.
some
You haven't been to Alberta. You have no idea what type of windstorms we can get here. Anyway,
been to
this
Texas.
is all a really long way of me asking, are you good at your own game? I want to know. Because this game is so challenging. Do you feel like you are somewhat of a master of your own creation?
So I'm good, but there's people that are way better than me. Like my Steam hours are in like maybe approaching 3,000 now, but a lot of that is just, the games are running while I'm working on it. So my actual playtime, I mean, it's probably over 100 hours, but there's people that are like on their 400th hour, and I don't even know if the game's been available that long.
Yeah, we've got a guy in the chat that says he's been going for 323 hours. So there you go.
That's MM. Yeah, he's obviously one of the best. I think he might be the top player on the leaderboard. Same with Battle. Like,
I think he was saying that earlier, which is impressive. Hey, listen, if you're listening to this podcast on iTunes, you're missing out. We got celebrities all over the place.
Yeah, that's right.
So you think you're pretty good?
I think I'm decent. Like, I have that knack where you can kind of start anticipating where something's gonna go, and like when they're flying through the air, you can line it up. But definitely not the best.
So
I
want to know.
Want to challenge
okay, you go. I want to know, when somebody faces you and they beat you in the game, do they feel like they've like defeated God? Like you created this universe, and they've just beaten you within that universe.
I get that, and a lot of people want me to make an achievement for killing the dev. I think once they see me play and they see that I'm not like spectacular, like it's not that remarkable. And I also think most of the time, like whenever I'm in a match, I'm constantly fielding questions and like people reporting bugs and stuff, and I'm like trying to play.
I just want to play my own game.
No, I never ever get to do that. So I should probably just create an anonymous account and.
You should have a
yeah, definitely.
What you really need to do is make a button, or just make a macro that you can use where people start asking you questions or reporting bugs. You just like hit a button and it gives them your email.
Yeah,
it says just here.
You hit a button and it just says it's not a bug, it's a feature, and it just scrolls that
even
over
better.
and over and over again.
Even better.
Just floods
you hop
the
into a
chat.
server, you type a command, and it just floods it, so people just shut up and you can play.
Excellent.
So,
Go for it, Trev.
Okay, cool. So now you're starting to develop a bit of a community.
Back on track. No.
Oh,
because I sidetracked it so hard.
Track.
Stop it,
I know. So I'm saying
buddy.
back on track.
Yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying. So, anyways, so you release this game, and people are really starting to take to it. I think the name attracts their attention, and the colors, and then they start to look at it and they become really interested in what this game's about, and you start to get attention from really, really big name guys like Total Biscuit and Markiplier and stuff. How do you pronounce that, guys?
Markiplier.
Who
are you?
I don't know. I only have so much time. I can't research every one of these guys. Okay, there's like 3 I know about. So Markiplier. Okay, there's
Markiplier.
There's an I that's not there on this.
Thank you. I was
put
going
it in
based
there
off
for you.
memory.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
guys. I appreciate it. So Total Biscuit, Markiplier, and all of these other guys are paying attention to this game now. Is this something you anticipated? Are you like, holy crap, I never need to work another day in my life? Like, did you get that sense of like, whoa, this is going to be bigger than I thought?
It's blowing up.
I think so. Markiplier came out of the blue. I didn't know he existed before.
Thank you.
But he came out of the blue for everybody, really.
Yeah, and the past year or so.
But he's so muscular.
He's so handsome.
He has phenomenal hair, and I think that goes.
And his voice, that man needs to be in like.
Well, I want to make an
movies.
announcer pack with him.
Yes.
They have like a little thing where like you can get the Markiplier. He has like a pink mustache logo, so it's perfect. So I kind of figured that YouTube would be it. a way to get exposure like outside of the normal route. Like if you go to like if you just email GameSpot and be like, hey, sorry,
Stop.
You just
GameSpot.
emailed
Oh, I do
Pixel
that too.
Attack.
It's the
Yeah,
worst.
we did that
If
like
I say,
8
hey,
times.
talk about my game, like they won't cover you because nobody cares. And but YouTubers like they're always looking for new stuff to play. And so I had really good luck. Basically, starting with small to medium channels, they were playing it, and then bigger channels would, they look at all kinds of channels to see what people are playing, and it started getting kind of passed around like that. And yeah, like when Markiplier covered it, like that video has over 1 million views at this point. So that's a lot of people that found out about the game from that video.
Yes.
And a lot of them, so it's really funny. Like some people, there's a couple videos where people have like 5 or 6 million subscribers, but it actually made no difference in sales of the game because I think people are just there to watch that person. But it's still in the back of their head somewhere, and like maybe in the future they'll pick it up on a Steam sale, or they'll see it on Reddit and then like vote on it or comment on it. So it all helps. Some of it's just more immediate impact, and some of it's kind of more delayed. But I think all that combined, like there's I think like 7 or 8 million total views of Disco Dodgeball stuff on YouTube, and I think that was a huge factor in the launch because then people see it on Steam, they click on it, and they wind up buying it that way. So.
So how does that feel as a creator that 6 to 7 million people are aware of something that you've done and have to a degree consumed something that you've created?
Yeah,
Because this is a new experience. You said you were making maybe $2,000 a game before this, right?
yeah. It was very modest income, and like I mean the numbers on Steam Spy are about right. There's I mean since that's public, it's about maybe 35,000 units. I think that's what Steam Spy is saying.
Wow.
Some of that stuff is free keys I've given away because I gave away thousands at the start.
Sure.
So you can't necessarily track that directly to income, but like that's kind of the scale of what we're talking about here with that many people, and yeah, plus all those YouTube views. It is cool because like it's hard to build a game and it's very frustrating.
Yeah.
And a lot of times like you always think your creations are cool and fun and interesting, and then to have that actually reflected in the real world is very nice. The thing is like for a very long time, even building this game, it was still I had no idea how it would be received. Like Markiplier video would come out, but like so many times people launch games on Steam and then just nothing. And, like there's no way to know what would happen. So and even up to that time, I still had zero traction with major press. Like they still didn't care. A lot of them still don't care about it. So it's really nice to see that now. But even up till very recently, I had no idea if people would care. And it feels pretty good now to kind of get that confirmation, that people are, interested in something I'm working on.
Yeah, that validation of like, oh, like I'm actually doing something that people would care about has got to be
Maybe one day we'll
satisfying.
feel that way.
I don't think that we'll ever.
I can only dream. Yeah.
Oh, one day.
So I want to know, like now, given kind of where you are, are you just like say, okay, well now I know that I can make a career out of this? Is this something that like now that you're on the other side and it's not just a dream anymore, it's a reality of creating something that people love, that they want to play, that they want to tell their friends about? Are you like, okay, well now I'm in this for life? Or where are you at? Because it sounds like you were very much just dipping your toe in the water when you first decided to go into this stream.
Yeah, I think at this point, and I don't want to like jinx things,
Yeah.
but like things are looking good. Like the game is selling well enough, and Steam Discovery has been a huge part of that too, because of like user ratings and traffic that it brings in. Like then Steam
Right.
feeds traffic towards it too. So like based on how things are going, it looks like I can comfortably work on this game for another year. And like I want to build it up. I think it has a lot more potential than it even has kind of shown right now. Right now like there's maybe 100, more like 50 players a night. I'd love to get that up to 1,000 players a night, right? Like if I do a couple of Steam sales and add like Steam Workshop and local multiplayer. And like, I think I can kind of hammer on this thing for about a year and build it up more and more and more. So that's where I want to, eventually take this thing. But like, I think also it's at the point where now that I have this game out, my next game, I could probably have a little more leverage in terms of like, oh, hey, like I built Disco Dodgeball, here's my new game, and hopefully get some interest on it that way. So I'm no longer starting from zero. I'm kind of starting from this foundation. So I think it's a good place to be. I work on my own, so I don't have to pay like 5 people's salaries, which it makes things slower to build, but gives me a lot better like the risk is a lot lower too. I only need to worry about feeding myself and my wife. But I also we're expecting a baby in June.
Hey, congratulations!
So thank you. But that adds a lot of.
You heard it here first, folks. Breaking news on the podcast.
Will we be able to play as the baby in R2D3?
Yes, I'll make a little tiny robot to commemorate the occasion.
Oh, that would be so cute.
But anyways, that adds a lot of obviously extra stress and financial pressure and stuff. So, but I think even with that, like things are looking good, and who knows? Like I'll just try my best to keep kind of building this up over time.
Yep.
Right. Do you find that this like you end up doing a lot more marketing than you thought you would do?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like everything is marketing, though, right? Like, this is marketing. Obviously, I'm having fun talking to you guys, but like, you always got to be out there. You always got to be, on Twitter, on Reddit, emailing people to play your game, and you're constantly updating screenshots and making videos. So at this point, like, the lines are so blurred between, developing the game and marketing it that I can't even like keep track of, what's what. Like, it's all kind of the same stuff. I would love to just build the game and then like tweet out a screenshot and then have everyone download it, and not have to worry about
nice.
any.
That would be nice.
Sure. Well, like indie developers, I find it's such an interesting and unique sort of aspect of game development now, because you find people like yourself who develop these games, but you're also like, not only are you like the programmer, lots of times these people are the artists. Lots of time they'll even make the own sound design for the game, and then on top of that, you're doing all the PR. Like, you're wearing so many hats. How have you found adopting all of those different roles? Is that something that you enjoy, or do you think maybe in the future you would prefer to have just the one thing that you focus on in game design?
I love outsourcing art because I'm so bad at it, and it takes me 10 times longer to make something that's totally crappy. And so with this latest project, I found an artist pretty late in the cycle that I really, really, really enjoyed, and it was amazing to be like, hi, I want like these things. Can you make them? And they came back awesome. And so I love outsourcing that. I also hired basically a PR guy towards the very end, right before launch, to help with emails and stuff. And that seemed to help too. So I would love to just focus more on building the game as much as possible. But like, I also love talking. I love hanging out in the Steam forums, and like when people ask me questions. I love interacting with them and getting good ideas from them. I do hate troubleshooting though. Like when somebody emails bug support, emails a bug, and they just have this like, there's a log they send me, and it's just like garbly code nonsense. I can't read that stuff. I don't know what that is. Like, I just look through it and look for like error somewhere, and then I Google it. And then,
just Control F.
Yeah, no, it's like literally like anybody can do this, and so like it's
you heard it here first, folks.
90% of programming is Googling. Like, it's
don't you know it?
It's not any special technique.
I would actually even say that extends to almost all IT careers. If you are a master of Google, you have a long and illustrious career awaiting you in the IT sector.
Unless your company uses proprietary software.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was like a database admin for a while, and
nice.
I kind of felt like all day long I'm emailing people and Googling, and I would have rather been programming. So that's kind of how I made that career change. But yeah, it's all the same stuff. It's just Googling.
So
Yeah.
You mentioned you mentioned being on the Steam forums and stuff like that. Do you think that it's more of a requirement for indie devs of these smaller titles to stick around and build that community? Or do you think, depending on the game, do you think that they could just be like, "Here you go, bye," and just go on vacation for a while?
Well, so if you look at any of the blow-ups recently with early access titles, the key factor is communication. And it's not that Disco Dodgeball didn't have bugs or didn't have delays, but I was always on the forums trying to like explain what was going on and keeping people in the loop. And if you don't have that, if you just disappear, it looks like you don't care. And so like it does take up a lot of time, which is doubly hard when it's just you. But it's absolutely critical. Like you have to be there. You have to like, not just with PR wise, but to avoid people getting angry at you. Like you'll get people with pitchfork mobs after you if you like. And then like stories get like made up about you that aren't even true, and it just gets all out of hand. And
Did this
you want to set
happen?
the record straight right now on the podcast?
well, no,
Eric, you can clear some things up if you want.
My name is Eric, and I am a robot.
that's what happens with other games.
No, totally. I have to know, like as someone who has developed on mobile and now is using the early access platform, those are two platforms that are sort of infamous for being like manipulated or exploited for gains, or just like the types of games on there are oftentimes, very predatory. How do you feel as someone who uses those for what we would probably all consider, very earnest motives? How do you feel about developers who use these games, who make an early access game and then ditch on it halfway through and take the money and run, or mobile developers who just make, very blatant free to play money grabs?
Yeah. So they're two. I would classify them as two different kinds of issues, but yeah, those are both like giant controversies, like hot topics right now in gaming.
Exactly.
So some of those games, like I enjoy. Like I like wasting time. I go to the bathroom like everybody else, and like I love a nice little 5-minute game. I can
You
play.
heard it here first, folks.
We're getting so much breaking news.
He's a robot that goes to the bathroom. This is
So
revolutionary.
many more questions now.
So like I don't, I don't necessarily think those are evil, and like once you play them a little bit, like you can kind of tune out some of their stuff.
Sure.
I just think it's just.
I guess, like, does it frustrate you as someone who's using these platforms when other people come along and for lack of a better word, sort of tarnish people's perception of them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Right. So I think mobile, like, because free-to-play games, like, they got everyone kind of in this attitude of like, well, everything should be free, and like that means like there's no really sustainable niche for stuff that's not geared to that model. So that sucks. And I think on early access, like, yeah, there were a couple like big blow-ups that like could have been avoided. Some of them were earnest and some of them were maybe more sketchy. And yeah, like early access for me has been an amazing platform, because I was able to get money while I'm making the game. Like all that could go back into the game. It allowed me to spend, a year and a half on it with like no other real source of income.
Right.
So like that's amazing, and it came along at just the right time. But it probably also like decreased sales a bit because people are like, well, it's early access, I'll just wait till it's done, and like that's fine. Like I totally understand that, but when people are like always against early access, like on principle, I don't know. I think I'd rather see it be treated a little more on a case by case basis, because
Absolutely.
There is good stuff on early access, and
Oh, definitely. Okay, so I have some questions that I've rounded up from the chat that I wanted to get to before we get too deep
Finish
into
your
this.
sentence.
What were you gonna say, Travis?
No, go for it. I was just gonna make fun of you not finishing your sentence, but
No, I'm going for it.
Yeah,
and
go
don't
for
you
it.
dare make fun of me again.
I
I'm
would have
making
nothing
fun
to
of you
make fun of.
right
I
now.
have the power. I will kick you from this.
Yeah, boot you from the chat.
No, the whole website.
Oh,
Live on air.
Live
You want to
firing
talk about
on
making
air.
news? Let's fire somebody. Let's hire someone and then fire them. Okay, so Fridge Logician had two great questions. They wanted to know. Let me see. I'm trying to parse this question in a way.
okay. I've got a question.
Yeah, you
I'm
fill it
ready
up.
to go. Okay, cool.
Actually, no. I'll just read it verbatim. I'm just gonna
Sure.
read it verbatim. Okay, so Frigid Logician says, I have to ask, how did you go from, how would this title even work?
Is this actually how it's typed out?
Yeah. I
Okay.
am a week into making this game because I can't imagine this game didn't start with the title.
It was pretty close, actually. So it started with dodgeball, because I was like, first person dodgeball, like it's all projectiles, all insta kill. I made it robots because I didn't want to animate a human, so I knew
Yes. Perfect.
This is what I love about hearing these dev
Yeah.
stories, because sometimes the reasons for doing things are so just beautifully because I didn't
Simplistic,
want to
yeah.
animate
I don't
a
have
human.
time for that. I don't have the skills for that. Like, and even if I tried to throw a bunch of money at the problem, like it would never look good enough. Like people would then compare it to like, Call of Duty or like, and it would never be as good as that. So it would just look crappy.
Totally.
So by kind of going in like by this like total perpendicular direction, you kind of avoid those comparisons. So yeah, there's robots. They don't even have arms. The robot model at one point had arms, and I took them off because I didn't want to even animate arms on a robot. And I think the disco part, just because like I love electronic music and I love the way it works in games, and so it seemed like just a fun way to add like kind of this new angle of color and the musical integration and all that stuff. But I think like even from that prototype, at that point, just like a week into it, it was just like me in a room, and I had a bouncy ball, and I was like throwing it against the wall and catching it, and throwing it against the wall and catching it. And I was like, this is fun. Like, why is this fun? Why is this like, I'm not even fighting anyone. Like, there's no goals. It's just like bouncing this physical ball around this room.
It's funny because I feel like I've had that exact same moment where I'm throwing a bouncy ball against a wall, and I've done it for an hour, and I'm like, why am I doing this? And
like
why
in real
can't I
life.
stop?
Yeah. And so I think from that moment, I'm like, okay, this is fun without any, obviously limited fun, but there's something there. There's something fun about it. With this very, very limited scope. And from that point, just kind of everything added onto it kind of felt like, gravy or icing. It was like, okay, well, this is, power-ups. Why not? Like, that's cool too. And this game mode, yeah, like that's simple. Let's add it. Whereas the game I built before that was this real-time competitive strategy game where you're hacking into each other and you're placing firewalls and encryption. And the concept was cool, but it took like 7 months before it was any fun at all. And even then, maybe you could debate whether it ever got fun. And so knowing that, like, on one hand, a game takes 7 months to be fun, and the other one, it's fun after a week, was like, okay, like this concept has like some legs, and I should probably invest some more time into it and see what's there.
Turn
So
those
it's just
legs into wheels. Because forget
Wow.
Because forget animating legs.
Yep.
That's awesome.
How did like the actual roller derby part take? Like, was it just the same thing? Like, you didn't want to animate legs? Because it adds so much to the gameplay though. Because that was another thing I found I really struggled with when I first started playing it, was wrapping my head around the new sort of momentum, and like you'll hit a ramp and you'll kind of bounce off of it at a direction that didn't make sense at first, and then you're like, oh wait, but I'm on a wheel, like I'm on a unicycle basically.
Yeah. So I think the way it started was originally I was just using a standard, walking around first-person controller, and I had built this little arena with these ramps up and these ledges. And I was like, I just want to like launch myself off this ramp, and that'll give me some like time to do a 360 midair. And so just kind of by playing around and experimenting, I'm like, let me try throwing a wheel on this thing and see how it feels. And it kind of just immediately clicked. And it works really, I think like it's critical to why the game works, because you have that momentum, you can kind of predict where people are going to go. Because you don't have mid-air steering, if someone launches in the air, you can see that trajectory. And if you could just have like a perfect like Quake style movement, you'd never be able to hit anyone at any kind of distance. So it turned into like a pretty critical part of the design, and it really was just playing around and kind of assessing it, like, what does this need? Like, why, as a player, what do I want to do? And I was like, I want roller skates. and then I just added it, so.
That's awesome. Okay, and then one final question from the chat was, how did you choose what songs to use for the soundtrack in game? Which, I mean, for people who haven't played it, I think the other kind of big seller on this game is the soundtrack is killer.
Music is unbelievable. Awesome. I hopped into the game, and like the first time I played it, I was like, that's Adhesive Wombat. Oh my god.
Yep. Well, yeah. So Adhesive Wombat, one of the songs is Anthem, and that kind of blew up because of Super Hot. That's the game where time is only when you do. I loved that song, and it had exactly the right feel that I wanted, and that was kind of like the anchor that I based the whole soundtrack around. So I contacted him and worked out a licensing deal. He had a couple other tracks that I loved. There was another artist.
His songs.
Yeah. I mean, they're all amazing.
So good.
And there was another artist who had worked on a game called A Virus Named Tom. That came out a couple years ago. Had a great soundtrack. So I hired that artist to actually write a couple original tracks. So that's an octave. One other person emailed me after seeing it on Markiplier's video. I think that was Crate, who keeps blowing me away. Like, he has a bunch of new songs I really want to add to the game too. And another one just messaged me on Reddit. It's like, hey, I'm a musician. I'm working on some songs. And he had this, it wasn't even finished. It was just like a minute of the song. And it was amazing. I'm like, I gotta have this song, gotta have this whole thing in. So it was really just kind of serendipitous, a lot of it. And I'd love to add more, but I'd also really love to kind of push the angle in Steam Workshop, allow people to upload music that they've written. Obviously, there's some copyright issues I got to work around, but maybe even DLC packs. Go to more mainstream artists and be like, hey, do you want to sell your music in this game? And that might be a fun way to get that way people can add to the soundtrack whatever they want. I'm not the sole tastemaker, and then the artists can find a good way to get their music out there too. So I don't know. I think that could be a really cool angle to push this as I go forward and want to expand that soundtrack.
Totally.
That's really neat. So I've got a question, if that's okay, Stevie.
Yes.
Yeah. So you talked about the fact that one of the best parts of this for you, not the best part, but one that gave you a lot of freedom, was the fact that you were your own boss. And now I got a question, considering that you've made a name for yourself a little bit. Do you want to continue in the indie space and use your name to help, kind of sell your games down the road? Or do you have dreams of, working on grand AAA games? Or, not necessarily what's your next move, but do you think overall you prefer the indie space, or is this just a stepping stone into wherever your career takes you?
I absolutely I want to in case things change, and
don't worry, it's not like Ubisoft's HRs are listening to the podcast or anything.
For me, the most fun part about games is coming up with the idea and then doing it yourself, and then seeing that what was this stupid idea in your head is now out there on the internet, and that process. There's a lot of frustrating bits about it, but that satisfaction from creating that thing that was in your head is really what drives me. And I feel like if I was at a big company, you're okay, you animate fingers on this character, and that's your whole job for 40 weeks. You're the finger animator, and that doesn't appeal to me at all. Then it's you get all the bad parts of game development and none of the good stuff, and you're just kind of this tiny cog in this big machine. So as it stands now, that's not what I want to do. That's not been my goal from the start. And that satisfaction of building something from nothing is kind of what I want and what I'm getting out of this. So if at all possible, I'd love to kind of create this, just be me and attach more and more games to my name and use that to keep selling stuff. So
you could create your own AAA studio one day.
Yeah. Asmussen Studios.
Asmussen, I think so. It's got a nice ring. I would probably pronounce it incorrectly, but I think a lot of people would enjoy it.
I need a good
I'm really enjoying this game from Asmussen. Musin,
Asmussen.
Metamucin.
I need a name like Notch, like some snap,
Yeah.
you know?
Just like bam, one
Assy.
syllable.
Assy.
Assy.
The ass man.
That was my
I think
nickname in
is a
college,
good-
The ass
so-
man. There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
The
Travis has
the
got it
ass
unfair.
man. Oh
The
my
ass
gosh.
man.
It's the ass man. Shigga-bida-bida-bida-bida-bop.
Okay.
Anyway, that's my
Alright.
joke of the day.
Wow. You only had one, and that's what you
really-
used it on, hey?
I was about to say, I really wish I could go back in time and take
Fast-
that back.
I
because
feel like
pass.
you got to save it
that
for
was
something a bit better,
unfortunate.
but that's okay.
So thank you everyone for tuning in. I'm gonna go
No!
and end my life. Just kidding. All right, I think that pretty much like concludes the question period. If you guys still have more questions in the chat, throw them in there. Travis, do you mind recording
Yeah.
some of these now?
Yeah, I'll log the good
Travis we have operators on standby waiting to field your questions and pass them on to Mr. Eric himself.
I feel
That's
like
right.
we should get Travis in a stewardess outfit to be taking phone
What?
calls.
No,
I
he needs to
don't-
be at a desk with like a phone,
Yeah.
like on PBS.
Can he
with
be
all
in a
those.
stewardess
Telethon.
outfit anyways?
Telethon.
Like, I just
Maybe I
Travis,
already
I
am.
just want to see you in a stewardess outfit.
Yeah,
He does have nice legs. I have seen them.
This took a weird turn.
Hey man, I call them as I see them. Anyway, we're gonna move on to the next part of the show, the gaming news. And was that Nevin who got the bumper for that, or was
No,
that you?
This is
No,
me, man.
Travis still-
This
Oh,
is
it's
my
all
torch
you.
to
Bring
carry.
it. Let us hear it.
Headlights.
Oh boy, I got shivers from that.
We can't afford
I need to change my
professional
pants.
stingers yet, Eric, so we need
That
to
wasn't a
figure
professional singer?
out. I know, it sounded like it. Thank you. I've been
Yeah, no,
working on it for about 18 episodes now.
Yeah.
It's
Perfect.
incredible. It gives me chills every time.
Better,
It's like
better and
oh.
better as we go.
Yeah, it's like that scene in Lord of the Rings when everyone bows to the hobbits in the end. I just get full of emotion.
You know when you hear certain songs and they trigger memories of like where you were when you first heard
Yeah.
that song?
Yes.
When I hear you do the stinger, Travis, I get nom flashbacks.
didn't know you were that old.
Yeah, wow. Learning a
I'm
lot
impressed.
today.
You sound like an
Very,
18-year-old.
very, very informative.
Excuse
That's-
me.
So
That's what all non-veterans sound like. British
Back in
nannies.
I
say back in my day. Me.
Oh boy. All right, let's talk about some gamer news. That's what we wrote down in the
Gamer
podcast notes,
news.
and I regret it immensely.
shut up.
Game news. We're gonna be talking about some of the headlines this week that really blew things up. So I think the big thing this week that really stole the show was, of course, Nintendo had one of their infamous directs.
Infamous.
And, yeah, because
Oh my
I hate
goodness. Nintendo Directs are like a holiday, man. It's
them. I
so
don't
exciting.
get it. I do not get the
Dude,
excitement.
if your favorite publisher, like once every 2 months, held this giant live stream where they just hyped up all of these games with new footage and game announcements, why would you not get super excited?
It's
Let
kind
me
of
tell you why. Because
Yeah, Eric,
Half
can you
of-
start doing these? I want you to do Asmussen Directs. Yeah, that's right.
Assy directs.
Say, get rid of the D. Assy Rex. It's fine.
That sounds kind of bad. Anyway, no, see, the reason why I hate them is because I feel like 90% of the news is like stuff that would not be breaking headlines anywhere else. But because Nintendo does a big horse and pony show about it, people get their panties in a bunch and get really excited about it. It's like new characters coming to Smash, and it's like on the front page of Reddit, and it's like, come on,
Dude,
like
we
who
need
cares?
news. We're a news organization. We need stuff like this.
This
What
is
would
No,
we
we'll
do?
survive.
fruit.
Anyway,
This
Like,
gives us
low-hanging
material
fruit.
for weeks.
I didn't bring this up so that I could share with everyone my perfectly reasonable and plausible opinions for why Nintendo Directs aren't fun. I brought them up so we could
No.
talk about the Nintendo Direct.
Irrational.
As much as I want to do. So there was like a bunch of really lame stories that... I'm sorry, I'll stop. There was a bunch of stories that broke this week. There are new characters coming to Smash. Lucas and Mewtwo. That's exciting. One of the cooler stories I definitely think was the Nintendo 64 and DS games will be coming to the Wii U Virtual Console. Now,
Yes.
Nintendo 64 games have been on the Wii before.
That's right.
But if I'm not mistaken in thinking that this is the first time DS games have been ported to the main consoles.
That's correct.
So I mean, Travis is our resident Nintendo fanboy. Why don't you lead the charge on positivity for this whole thing?
Yeah, you know what?
Shoot you down.
Honestly, I think this is something that is overdue. Especially, I don't think anyone was asking for the DS games on the Virtual Console. Not like we didn't want them, but it was like, Nintendo, let's just get N64 games first, and then we'll see where we can go from there. But this is a big announcement. I think this is an awesome way for Nintendo to, just pick up some more dollars. It's funny that the Nintendo 64 games, most of the ones, if you bought them for the Wii, you can still play them on your Wii U. It's just a little bit cumbersome because you have to go into a separate mode and you have to pick up your Wiimote and all of this stuff. So basically, they're just making it easier for people, and a lot of people are super stoked about that. So I welcome this. I think anytime Nintendo wants, because Nintendo has the best library of games that they've published over X amount of years. And for them not to make that available to the public, and I think we talked about this last week. It may have been
It's a crime.
yeah, that's right. It may have been on another stream, right? But Nintendo has such a library of games, and if you make them easily accessible to people, they will pay money for it. It's when you don't give them access to these games they grow up with that they will begin emulating them or do something like that. It's when we talked about this, it's like Spotify. Right? It's not like people are all like, yes, I love stealing songs from people, right? It's like, I need a way to consume this easily, and the current methods are not doing the job. Therefore, I'm reduced to torrenting stuff. And I'm not condoning that, but I'm saying that's the mentality of people, and Spotify alleviated a lot of that by making it easily accessible to listen to whatever songs you want. So I think if Nintendo makes their games easily accessible to people for people to consume, then people won't be emulating them and downloading illegal ROMs in droves like they have typically been in the past. So I'm all for it.
So are they going to start though with all the crappy games and then work their way up over?
I think
Guys, can I tell you how excited I am
for
for Buck Bumble to be on the Wii
the
U?
Mary-Kate and Ashley games that coincided with movies they were in? No.
Banjo-Tooie.
Hey, what?
Oh,
What was
there
that?
it is. There
That
it
was
is.
vicious.
Scandal,
That was
scandal,
a vicious
scandal.
attack. No,
The only reason I said that was just to...
I could tell by the look on your face. You were like, come on. Bite the hook.
Baiting them.
This
bait.
is Eric.
You
I
are
would
a
say
masterful
it's
baiter,
probably
Steve.
going to be the opposite, right? Where they have a few big first-party titles to lead the charge to get everyone excited. I know the first one released on the 64 Virtual Console, Super Mario 64, and they also advertised Donkey Kong 64 in the Nintendo Direct. And that's huge because that has been a pain in the keister to emulate. And even if you run an emulator on your computer, there's like a 50% chance of it actually rendering properly and not having all these glitches and stuff like that. So I think what they'll probably do is they'll pick like the really big seller games off the bat and then probably add in some of the smaller, lesser known titles as they go on. That's what they've done with the Super NES and the Wii and the Game Boy Advance as well.
So it'll be a few years before I can play Eminem Beach Party on my Wii U.
Or Glover.
Glover was
boy.
sick.
Cruising
All right.
Glover was
USA.
weird. You know what? I downloaded Cruising USA on the Virtual Console for the Wii because this is before I had the hindsight, and I was like, man, I haven't played this game in 5 years. Maybe it'll bring back memories. And I bought it, and that reminded me how awful that game was.
Brutal.
So
Eric, I have to ask.
worst N64 game.
my personal worst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zelda.
You know,
of course.
everyone loves Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. Like, I didn't really enjoy them at all. I was very happy for them to be over, and I don't think the art style held up at all.
Bring the drama.
I just
Very
love. Yeah, there you go. There's your
controversial
clickbait
opinions. I love it.
drama.
That's right. Thank you.
I don't know why. I don't know why everybody loves these things. And I loved NES Zelda. I loved Link to the Past. I don't know. Just didn't have that same kind of mysterious adventure-y feel. It was just, to me, felt like a chore. I don't know.
Totally.
So
Tomorrow I'm going
Ocarina
to
of
post
Time.
an article. I'm going to post an article to the website tomorrow, and the headline's going to read, developer of Robot Roller-Derby Disco Dodgeball. I did it on the second try pretty well.
There you go.
So,
Start over.
developer of that game, which I'm not going to repeat because I just did,
Yeah.
calls Miyamoto a hack.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to be. And we're going to send
That I'm
ripples.
better than Miyamoto.
Yeah, that's
You actually said it. We can quote him.
there we go.
And the Beatles. And the
Yeah,
Beatles said
and
they were better than
Jesus.
Jesus. So
Therefore,
if you're following the
the
line of
chain
logic,
command.
Erik Asmussen, better than Jesus.
So,
Here
question
first,
about
folks.
Donkey Kong 64. So, I remember seeing that press release. I have zero memory of Donkey Kong 64 ever existing. Like, that was the first I'd ever heard of it. Was this
That
like a
was-
big game, or?
Yeah, so that was the game that I had the Donkey Kong 64 console. It was like the sort of transparent green. It came with Donkey Kong 64.
God.
It was the first Nintendo 64 game I ever owned.
That game came
It's
out pretty
an
late in the
okay game.
cycle. It was a rare game. So it was like if you imagine Banjo-Kazooie-esque, but with Donkey Kong characters, like that's what it was, a collectathon.
Yeah, but Banjo was a far superior
Oh,
game. Donkey
yeah.
Kong is not a great game.
Oh,
It's
I
okay.
would disagree. I would say it's a collectathon by the guys who were awesome at collectathons. The only difference being by that time people had their fill of collectathons on the N64 because that was the it genre at the time, right? And I think Donkey Kong 64 came
I
out
believe
pretty
that game
late
came
in
out
the
before
cycle.
Banjo.
No way. I think that game was late in the cycle because it had the expansion pack that you had to get extra. So if I remember correctly, I mean, Steve's Googling it, I think.
You talk. I'm
Yeah.
Googling it.
Oh, I
That's
was
right.
Googling it too.
Okay, cool. So between the two of you, hopefully one of you guys can figure this out.
DK
But
was 1999.
oh yeah,
Yeah, I'm looking
so
up
that's
Kazooie.
late. Banjo-Kazooie would have been 96, 97, I think. So, anyways, I think the big thing.
98. You were right. Yeah, go.
So
Sorry.
so the big thing I think, as far as why people weren't as enthusiastic about it by that point, is just because there had been quite a few collectathons on the N64. So it wasn't anything new and exciting, but I really enjoyed it.
I would
haven't-
still argue that mechanically it wasn't the best. Rare has such a epitomal history of games, and if someone was like, "What's the one Rare game I should play?" Donkey Kong would be so low on that list.
Would not even be on the list.
It would be on the list. It would just be low.
Nah.
So I mean, Eric, do you have a Wii U?
No.
No. So this doesn't. You're in my camp, right? You think Nintendo sucks?
No.
Well, I think back in the day, I would play if they
Stir
had
the
really good
pot.
you
Steve's
know,
the
library.
Fox News of video game journalism right now.
I'm the Nancy Grace.
They're always doing weird stuff with controllers that I don't understand.
Right?
And I don't understand amiibos at all. I think
Speaking of
everyone on
amiibos,
Twitter is like
man, I
freaking
feel
out
like-
about them and
I
like
feel
waiting
like
in
you
line.
and Steven have a nice pub
This is
session
the
in
beginning
order
of a
soon.
beautiful
Yeah.
friendship, if I
Wow.
don't say so myself.
They're like
Speaking of
action
amiibos-
figures and everyone's like losing their mind over it.
I like them. So
Yeah, you gotta be careful around Travis. He will find
defend
you
them to
and
death.
give you amiibos.
That's right. Yeah, I bought Steven Amiibo hoping to win him over, and now
Nice.
not only does he mock the thing that I lovingly bought him, I feel like he is insulting me at the same time.
If you want to know, be perfectly honest, every single time I talk negatively about Amiibo, I always glance up at it on my desk because I feel that guilt of like,
Good!
you gave
That
me
was
this
the
Amiibo, and I'm like, Amiibo sucks. I don't get it.
On your desk though, so that's worth
That's
something.
true. He keeps
Yep,
it
yeah,
close
like-
to his heart.
No, and I've said this before. I think like on a purely aesthetic level, Amiibo are kind of interesting. I think the craze that surrounds them is entirely not warranted.
I think it's only because it's DLC that there are limited quantities too. And that's the big deal, right? Is, if people don't get in hypes over DLC because there are no DLC shortages.
Yeah,
But so is
I
any
guess.
physical object in the world, like socks. Like there's a limited
Yeah.
quantity of certain.
Let's be honest here. There's only a limited quantity of socks because those damn dryer goblins keep taking them.
I have a panic attack every time I have to throw a pair out because I know it's the end's coming soon. The sockless apocalypse is upon us.
What if your dryer
Everybody's gonna be
is
wearing
giving
Crocs
you a
and
sock
flip-flops.
and you're accusing him of taking one away?
What was if every time
Giving
a
you a
dryer
gift.
takes a sock, a kid in Africa gets a sock out of his dryer?
That's true.
Then
And
would you
you're
feel so bad?
complaining.
Yeah, you're a monster, Fork.
I need my damn socks.
All right. No.
Anyway, let's
anyways.
wrap up this
I
Nintendo
think,
story.
I think the hype comes from the shortage. And I think that's the big deal, right? And Nintendo does this on purpose. If you read the book Console Wars, they specifically do this in the 1980s, right? Nintendo has done this since the NES days, where they would ask for, a developer would ask, or a publisher would ask for 1 million copies of their game, and Nintendo would give them 300,000. And they intentionally created shortages. It's just been what they've done for the last 30 years, and they're continuing to do it today.
Let's
I'm not saying it's right.
we've got
No,
a bit
that's okay.
more.
They'll have to answer to Jesus when they all die. So,
And then answer to Eric.
Jesus is like, where's all my amiibos?
Yeah, that's
Jesus is like, one second, I just got to talk to Eric and see if he had any questions he wanted to ask you.
We have a bit more about Amiibo when it comes to the Nintendo Direct. They added some new Amiibos and the GameStop website crashed, which was hilarious.
Right, so this feeds back into the craze because people brought down a website that is not only just like, it's understandable when sometimes a website gets brought down because of whatever, like the infamous Reddit hug of death, as people call it, when Reddit makes something super popular. But like GameStop is by no means just like some little corner of the internet. Like that is a website built for online transactions, and people brought it to its knees, which is just, it blows my mind. And apparently in-store was just a bonanza that day.
Yeah, we've got somebody else.
We had our own
website
journalists in the field reporting on that massacre as it happened.
talking about the what the cashier was talking about. This reminds me about my trying to get a ticket for a Pink Floyd concert.
Yeah, one of our writers, Austin, was talking to one of the GameStop employees, and it was just a gong show all around. The guy probably shouldn't have been working at a GameStop. But anyways, the story here...
If he shouldn't be working at GameStop, I can't think of anyone that should be working at a GameStop. Let's be
the
perfectly
story
honest.
here is that Nintendo can bring down giant websites with, 18 hours notice or something like that. So... That's what they did.
So
they announced
watch
the
out,
Direct
4chan, because
less than
there's a
20
new anonymous in town. Nintendo's bringing down the
I think
web.
it's worth stating that like I don't feel like GameStop's website is really as big as you say it is.
I made this point the last time we were talking about this, where GameStop does not strike me as a website that is brimming with new architecture.
No, that
Like-
that website has looked the same since the Paleolithic era.
Yeah, totally. So anyway, wrapping up this Nintendo story. So there's a ton of news. This thing is an hour long. But I think some of the bigger ones was, the new Amiibo, the Nintendo Virtual Console stuff for the new Wii U functionality. And then the Amiibo tap feature, which I don't want to spend too much time talking about. But it's, the ability to tap your Amiibo on the gamepad and you get like these 3-minute demos.
I just want to say, this is trash.
I don't know anyone
Thanks
who
for
thinks Amiibo
pausing
tap is...
the podcast in order to get that opinion across. Corey.
I think that is total.
God forbid we continue without hearing that cutting analysis from Nevin Holmes.
I played.
I don't know about you, but
13
I feel much more enlightened after hearing that.
I paid $13 for this damn figurine, and you give me 3 minutes of a game. Go screw yourself,
Randomly
Nintendo.
assigned game.
Yeah, that's...
Eric, do you have any thoughts about this Amiibo tap feature?
So you get a demo once for 3 minutes?
No. So I'll explain it. So the Amiibo, when the first time you tap it on the gamepad will then assign that specific Amiibo a series of demos. I think there's about 9 of them. And every time you tap that Amiibo, you'll get a different 3-minute chunk of a game. So like they were showing off Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. And so every time you tap the game, you'll get to play a 3-minute chunk of Link's Awakening, a different chunk from different parts of the game.
That sounds like
this-
cancer.
Exactly. Thank
Yes.
you, Eric.
That's like forcing people to like
You're just feeding us amazing
get
quotes.
so excited about your advertising.
I had
Nintendo
no idea
equals
we had
cancer.
such a
It's like
Headline.
drink your Ovaltine kind of thing.
Thank you. Yeah. We're gonna
Yeah,
have to
I-
send
I-
you some
I don't know
royalties
a-
from all the traffic you drive our direction after we publish some of these
I don't
quotes.
know if there's a lot of people, honestly, who are like, Amiibo tap sounds fantastic. It sounds, I mean, it's something. It's
Yeah, to
Like,
me,
I
to me,
appreciate the-
it's a
I
feature they
appreciate
should
the-
have had from the beginning. It's not the selling point of the Amiibo,
I
right?
think
These
like-
people,
creative.
If
Yeah.
anything, if like the randomness is fine, but give me the whole random game. It's been
Yeah.
out since the damn 80s.
yeah, I agree with
Plus
that.
less than the Amiibo on Virtual Console.
Well, and like some of these ROM, like the ROM of Link's Awakening, I'm sure is like less than
Yeah.
a megabit, like a megabyte. Like I mean, don't quote me on that, but those things are not big by today's standards. I'm sure like the built-in storage on the Amiibo could probably
and
hold
with
an
Amiibo
SSD
Tap, there is
than
storage
Amiibo
on the
built-in
Amiibo.
storage. They don't even do that though. Is what they do is they set it up so the NFC receptor on the Wii U recognizes, oh, this is Link, and then the Amiibo Tap says, okay, when Link is scanned, we're going to grab this game. So there doesn't even need to be any storage.
Okay, so let me ask this. Is this not a whole new level of DLC being sold that's already on the disc because it's already on the console? Like,
But they're giving
Come
you
on.
something free. right? It's not
what-
it's not
You're not. You're
DLC.
paying $13 for it. Yeah, thank you, Eric.
No, but people aren't buying the amiibo so that they can play a $2 virtual console game. 3 minutes of a $2 virtual console game.
Yeah,
no
I
one's
just- I
buying
don't
it
get
for that reason.
To me, actually, this move speaks more to me that Amiibo has no vision for the future because it
That's
seems
just
like
so
such a
funny.
soulless scramble to try and add value to the Amiibo in whatever way possible.
They don't need
because
to
they
add
have-
value. People are buying these amiibo for $60 on eBay.
Eric,
Yeah,
this
but
is
you
how
suck
it usually
very much
goes. You
longer.
get used to it after a while.
You saw what happened. 18 hours, they announced a new wave of amiibo.
Yeah, but Nintendo wants more money than they're already getting, so they need to find ways to make Amiibo last longer than just a season. And I think they recognize that Amiibo it's not a Skylanders replacement. It's not competitive with what Skylanders and Disney Infinity are doing. It is a shallow repeat of those games, and they're struggling to find ways to make it more meaningful. That's all I'm gonna say. Case closed.
Case closed.
I'm just wondering if it's just a flash in the pan, right? How come the hype is crazier now than it has been when they were released? And it's only getting more so.
Travis, let me tell you about people who in the early 90s went freaking crazy about a little thing called Beanie Babies.
Oh,
and
I
they
was
were
one of them.
sold. Oh, me too. But they were sold on the idea that Babies were an investment because decades from now, Beanie Babies would be so scarce, and people who collected the rare Beanie Babies would be able to sell them for thousands of dollars. Guess what? Beanie Babies are useless, and so will Amiibo be in maybe 2 years tops. No one will be talking about Amiibo.
I'm not saying that amiibo are going to stand the test of time, but I'm saying it's dumb to say at this point Nintendo's trying to scramble and add whatever value they can. They don't need to do. It's not like the people scrambling at GameStop that brought down the website were doing so because they wanted a 3-minute demo of a 2-minute virtual console game. What Nintendo is doing is they're saying, hey, people are obsessed with these amiibo. Why don't we give that thing that people already have as an intro into the door of our virtual console games that they may not have played so we can get more money from them?
But what I'm saying is that Nintendo is looking at Amiibo and knowing that that bubble is going to burst fairly soon, and they're trying to find ways to make Amiibo last longer than just the superficial. There's only so many times you can sell someone a Link.
Yeah, okay.
Nintendo is working with limited IP after
So
a while.
how come that makes them bad guys because they want to make their products last longer than they would if they didn't do anything about
Nobody
it?
said the bad guy.
No,
word.
but that,
nobody said villain.
Sure,
I
but
said
that
they're
doesn't-
villains.
Yeah, that's right, Eric,
Yes.
and a lot of other.
He called them
things, too.
cancer, to be
Headline.
fair. That's nature's villain.
No, but they're not. They're not.
It's nature's Lex Luthor because both of them make you bald.
Okay.
Oh, let's
So-
move on from this. This is turning into a.
Me and Travis
spitting
could argue
contest.
all day.
We will
Sure.
one of these.
And
days.
I don't-
We'll do
I don't
a
wanna-
24-hour
No, but
argue-thon
listen.
for charity.
I could argue with you all night, but I really would hate if I disparaged you in front of Eric. Like if he thought less of you because of
You're
how-
embarrassing me in front of a guest.
If we had a table, you'd be kicking me under it.
That's like,
I feel
And
like
then I'd be
nasty
the idiot that's
text.
like, why are you kicking me? It's like, oh. Anyway, I'm gonna call it. All right,
There we
this
go.
one it's a tie. You make great points, Travis. A handshake.
I'll
for
accept it.
Good sportsmanship. Nintendo remains a hot button debate. It's so funny how little Nintendo has to do to set us off. Like
Yep.
you and me.
This is why we're talking about them constantly. Is that they make great content.
No, because I just like fighting.
perfect.
Anyway, let's move on. So, okay, the one thing that I will admit is totally cool about the Direct is the next sort of big story was Nintendo also announced that they wanted to open up what they're calling sort of this Smash ballot, where people can vote and decide on what characters they would like to see in the new Smash game. And so, of course, people are free to go in and add their own entries, and people are free to vote on them. What's cool, though, is a lot of companies have spoken up and said, oh, like we would like our, this character. One of them, the most notable easily would be Phil Spencer, the head of the Xbox division at Microsoft, said, I think it would be cool. I'm quoting here. I think it would be cool to have Banjo be in Smash, which I think really kind of set the internet on fire because all the fanboys got like super like butterflies in the tummy thinking of Nintendo and Banjo reuniting at last. Yacht Club and Shovel Knight. We're talking about how they would love to see Shovel Knight in their games. Now, Way Forward and Shentai?
Shentai and the Pirate's Curse is a
Okay,
fairly
that's who I was
prominent
thinking
indie
of.
game on the eShop.
Yep. Yep, that was another one. Now, Eric, I want to ask you, when are you going to make your bid for the roller robots to be in Smash?
You already
just-
have one named Luigi, so that's super easy.
I was just thinking that. Can you guys use your
Our
your
clout,
audience to
our
push that?
massive clout. All right, guys. So we want you to hashtag R2D3. No, wait, what should we say? Hashtag roller robots in Smash. Get it going.
Yeah.
Start
Trending
the
nationally.
movement.
Hashtag
Break
roller
the internet,
Yeah.
in the words of Kim's Kardashian.
Little dodgeball weapon. That'd be so great.
Yeah.
Let's get a Photoshop of Kim Kardashian in that photo with the robot coming out of her butt crack. That's what I
No.
want to see.
This is a classy
to,
joint,
um,
Steve.
The internet.
Says the man who has made so many oblique sexual references.
That was before we started streaming. People have
I'm actually-
no knowledge of that whatsoever.
If it didn't happen on stream, it doesn't exist.
That's right.
I'm actually curious, guys. Who do you guys want in Smash?
Oh,
if you can
boy.
pick one thing, one person or character,
Yeah.
fictional, real, otherwise, to be in Smash, who would it be?
Gex, enter the gecko.
Good.
Glover.
Good. Eric?
Lover.
Jesus.
Jesus.
Jesus is OP, please nerf.
So then you could. No.
Command him.
Smash him?
I would. Well, it would be great because like nobody would like. It'd be so amazing to like fight Pac-Man and Jesus. I don't know.
That's true.
I want
I
Macho
would
Man
feel
Randy
like
Savage.
I would feel like I was sitting every time I beat him in Smash, and I would be nervous
Right.
about like
You'd have to be, like,
the
pray after
eternal
every round.
consequences of that. Yeah.
I'm at such conflict with my morality.
Yeah.
I want
really
to
be
be
messing with
Yoshi.
players. I'd love it.
Or I want to be Kirby just so I can eat Jesus and then
No.
absorb his powers
I'm
and
nervous.
become like
What is it?
Jesus
what,
Kirby.
What would
Just be like
Kirby
the
You're
last
gonna
one.
get a lightning bolt
being
come
Jesus?
down on this
Like
podcast.
turning water into
Kirby's
wine?
Jesus power would be anytime you smash him out of the arena, he automatically respawns without losing a ticket.
There we go.
Yeah.
You have to wait
Oh,
3 days.
God. I want I want Macho Man Randy Savage.
That would
be a
actually
good one,
be kind
too.
of funny. The other one I would go for is G.I. Joe.
You
Would
can
be
only pick one.
Fantastic. Okay, well I did too. Because
No.
I'm the editor in chief.
Going off the board. Yeah,
can't
that's
just
right.
change
Makes his
rules
own
like
rules.
that.
Wow.
All right.
I fly by the seat of my own pants.
So-
Nobody else's.
Travis, you were starting to do something and I interrupted
I
you
don't.
because
I have no. I don't remember at all what we were
Okay.
doing. Oh,
Next
actually, I
story.
did have a question.
Oh,
So,
there we go.
Eric, this seems like a real. I've considered this. Like to me, it seems like good cross promotion, which obviously we're masters of because you're on here and we're talking to you and stuff like that. So, like,
we're
I
masters of it. It's because,
I
you know,
haven't
reasons.
seen many examples of indie games like using each other's IP or characters or something like that, just as like jokes or something within a game. Do you know what I mean? So let's say I'm creating a new indie game and I loved R2D3. So, you know, somewhere out there in the world, there's an NPC of a robot who talks and is listening to disco music or something like that. Right? This is the stuff that I'm talking about. There's not really any examples of that other than Nintendo characters making cameos in other Nintendo games.
We're
So,
seeing-
as a developer, like, how do you feel? Would you be open to the idea of your IP appearing in another person's game? Is that seeing like promotion or stealing, or how would that work?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love it. I think I mentioned earlier, our biggest battle is against anonymity, and I think I would like someone to run it by me first, right?
Yeah,
So, like,
certainly.
so I'd know about it. But yeah, I think that kind of stuff is exactly what you want to do. There's a game by a friend of mine called Discourse that just came out, and it's like you crash on a desert island, and it's a choose your own adventure where you pick like who lives and dies and who to eat and all that stuff. And they're doing a scenario where it's a bunch of other indie game developers that crashed on this island, so you can have like John Blow and Tim Schafer like eat each other potentially. So like
that
that
would
kind
be
of
the
stuff would be a
best.
lot of fun. So
That's awesome. So you heard it here first, folks. If you're developing an indie game, consider adding a roller robot.
Roller
Roller-
robots. Is that like the canonical term for the characters in the game, roller
I
robots?
think I call them Dodgebots, but that's
Dodge-
Oh, I like that so much
There we
better.
go.
That's so
I like
much
that.
better.
Dodgebots, roll out. That's what you could say. Anyway, so unfortunately we're running a little bit long, so we're not gonna have time to wrap up the rest of the stories. It's okay; they were kind of dull anyway.
Things
OnLive
happen.
is shutting down this month. Who
I
cares?
don't even know what that is. So.
OnLive was the game streaming service that existed before any of the other ones. So without owning a console, you could stream games to your like TV or your computer. But
Nobody needs
it
that
had
anymore.
issues. at the time, and unfortunately, it's been replaced by better things. So,
Like
you know,
HDMI cables.
well, no, but like even PlayStation Now, like Gaikai, that service is much better. So, you know, unfortunately, it's what happens sometimes when you're like the pioneer of a new technology. Sometimes you're also the one to die first.
Yep.
So, see ya on live.
That
It's
happened
been
with
nice.
humans.
Right.
Okay.
So, yeah, we're gonna wrap things up right now. Eric, first off, buddy, thank you so much. It's been so much fun.
This has been a
Yes.
blast.
That's been fun. Yeah, thanks for having me.
If you ever want to come back,
You
we
just
would love
drop
to
us
have
a
you.
line.
Hell yeah.
We will.
Yeah, we
we
should
will
play some
stop what we're
matches.
doing.
Oh
Yeah.
my god. So I wanted to say that.
Yes.
I think it's safe to say we could probably announce some sort of video in the future of us,
Us four.
like some sort of dodgeball tournament between the few of us.
I don't
Yeah.
even think it needs to be a tournament.
You're in?
We can just get
No,
together.
not a tournament.
online and
But I
wreck
just mean
people.
like playing some games. We'll record
Absolutely.
some videos. So stay tuned for that. If you want to stay tuned for that, you should preemptively follow us, subscribe to us on YouTube at
beautiful
youtube.com.
segue.
Thank you.
Damn,
Thank you.
You're picking up Travis's jeans.
That's right.
youtube.com/Pixel Attack Gaming. You can find us on Twitter at Pixel Attack or our website, pixelattack.net. That's where we have awesome videos and articles going up every single day. And we have great stuff coming out right now. So we would love it if you would check us out. And you can also email us at podcast@pixelattack.net. If you ever have questions that you want read on the air on the podcast, we will do so.
I want to give Eric this time. Eric, you plug your heart out for the next 30
Oh my God.
seconds. You, like
Yeah.
you were dying, and you had your very last words, and it had to be related to people buying your video game.
Oh, so it's not like for medical attention? Like, please
No.
give me a bandage for call to the hospital?
You're
I would
dying.
have
You're
peanuts
dying.
in this unless it was directly related to your game.
Peanuts in this. Oh my God.
All right.
Okay, so you should all go to Steam right now and buy Disco Dodgeball. It's a lot of fun. There's good single and multiplayer content. It's just like a stupid, fun, good time. And
Stupid fun, not stupid, fun.
That's right.
yeah,
Dash.
it's
There's a dash in the middle.
Unless you end up just bouncing a ball off a wall for an hour and a half.
it's
Like,
fun.
it's
you know,
stupid
if
how
wanna
much
do
fun
that-
you have.
Yes, exactly. And it's $15 for one copy and $40 for four, so that makes it just $10 a copy. So that's the pitch.
Do it.
And I can't give enough praise to this game. This
game is so much fun.
unbelievably fun.
Yeah. If anything, take our words for it. This is three
That's right.
dudes
Eric,
who talk about video
Eric
games.
has an agenda. Don't listen to him.
Yeah. You can't
Us,
trust me.
we're just
That
shooting
man's
you
crooked.
straight.
I'm gonna.
That's right.
He wants you to
We're
buy
honest with
stuff.
You guys. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, how selfish can he be?
Buy my
Making a
own
living
stuff,
doing
jeez.
things for people
That he loves.
Ugh, the entitlement.
Yeah.
All right, so Eric, if people want to follow you on Twitter so they can learn more about you and the game you're developing, where can they do that?
Sure, it's 82 apps, APPS, nice and short.
Yeah, so that's the number 82. So
Much
82
easier to tweet about than the name of his video.
Hashtag Robot Roller-Derby Disco Dodgeball.
And now
And then
you
your
can
tweet's
say
over.
one thing.
Yeah. You can find me on Twitter personally. I'm at Steven Messner. That's Steven with a V and then Messner. Travis.
At Travis Parker Martin.
And Nevin.
At Fork H.
Yeah, that's the utensil and the letter H, all one word.
Pretty sure it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, I don't think you can do two words and have it be a.
I don't know. You could like phonetically spell it H, like A
AYCH.
A
There
C
you go.
H.
That's
Fork
true.
H.
Thanks for clarifying,
That's how
man.
you spell H.
Hey man, this is Twitter. People aren't always as smart as you would like them to be.
Oh man.
I'm gonna have some Twitter hate mail.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Incoming in 3,
We
2,
should-
1.
I don't think it'll compare to the hate mail that's coming Eric's direction.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
After those Nintendo articles air
Yeah.
tomorrow, buddy, you're gonna have to stand by some of the things you said.
Any kind of news is good news, so take it.
Exactly.
All
Miyamoto
press is
gave me
positive.
cancer.
I'll take
That's
it.
what.
That's what Miyamoto gets.
Anyway, Eric, thank you so much for being on the show. It was a blast to have you on, and we'll see you again soon. Maybe we'll have you back on for another episode, or we'll do some video content with R2D3.
Absolutely, and thanks again for having me on.
All right, and
All right.
thank you to everyone who tuned in on the Twitch chat. We really appreciate it. You guys were awesome today asking all those questions. If you're listening to this on iTunes or anything like that, we would so much love it if you went and gave us a 5-star review or gave us your thoughts. You don't have to give us a 5-star review. If you want to give us a 1-star review and make me cry, you could. But
Whatever
a
you
5-star
do-
review is preferable.
Whatever you do, use hashtags in your review.
Yeah, hashtag gaming, but you have to spell gaming with an E in it. It's integral to our review structure. Travis, you looked like you had something you want to say.
Yeah, well, this is, for some reason, Lord of Spades, which is a fan, and is here for every podcast. Really wants us to say this one word that they've been typing in the chat. And I've got no idea why all of us have to take turns saying this word, but I told them that we would do this.
Go
so,
for it.
Sweeker Brood?
I think you're right, because it reminds me of like Suikoden, the RPGs, and that looks like Sweeker
Okay.
Brood.
Anyone else? Everyone has to
Sweeker
pronounce
Brood.
it.
Sweeker Brew's what I was thinking.
This gives me an idea for an awesome name for beer. Sweeker Brew.
Sweeker
Yes,
Brew.
depending on what it means.
Yeah, that's right.
It probably means something like ass.
He's laughing, so I think
yeah,
so.
I think
something
Guys, we all just
horribly
get had.
offensive.
Yeah, that's
Probably
right.
just we're
It's
probably
a
gonna
swear
be
in
banned.
Korean.
We're going to end the podcast before people find out just exactly what Sweeker Brood is, and we have offended all of America at once. So thank you so much for tuning in, guys. We love you. You're all awesome, and we will see you guys next week with another excellent episode of the Pixel Attack podcast.
Bye.
Good night.
Go, go, roller girl, look at that girl roll. Roller derby saved my soul.